All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the July 14th work session for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We just have agenda review for this work session. We've got 6 items for hearing and 1 additional not up for a hearing that we'll go through right now. Item A, so again, not eligible for a hearing, is CUP 2522 and CVA 2528 for Ørsted Architects. This is revised findings from last week's hearing. The address again is 4306 West State Street, and it was a conditional use permit for a shelter home on 1.99 acres in an MX3 or mixed use active zone, and a variance to deviate from the streetscape standards and access and connectivity requirements. Those were both approved, and we're looking for approval on consent for item A as well.
And Crystal, I'll have to recuse for that one.
Yep, just if you all stay up there and then.
I do too.
Sounds good.
Madam Chair. So on that revised findings, I got a question about the timing. This was discussed in the testimony, and I remember the applicant saying that they were not sure about the 5 to 7 p.m. timeframe. So item number in the reason statement, item F, is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
It is accurate. Okay.
Yes.
Because she was clear that, so I don't understand what the 5 to 7 p.m. is about. That shouldn't be there. And she was going to clean it up.
Madam Chair, Josh will come up to just answer that question real quick.
Okay.
You're right that there was quite a bit of discussion around those hours, but it did not make it into the actual condition. You know, the motion did not contain changes to that, so that one remained as written. Yeah, but you're right, there was quite a bit of discussion.
So do we need to change it or not for the revised findings?
To accurately reflect the motion, it should not be changed.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions on that one? Okay, fantastic. So moving on to item 1, CPA 25-3, and the applicant is City of Boise, and it is citywide, and it is a comprehensive plan amendment to remove 128 parcels from Blueprint Boise's future land use map, assign 20 parcels of future land use designation of compact, and request to Ada County to amend the area of impact accordingly. We are recommending approval on consent when we haven't heard anything from anyone, so we can try for that. Item 2 is ZOA 25-4 for platform architecture and design. The address is 3218 East Barber Valley Drive, but this is a code amendment to the larger SBO2OC and SBO2OMR subdistricts. And it's an amendment to allow for a live work use within those districts in the SBO2 or Barber Valley specific plan zone. We are recommending approval and have not heard any opposition, and so we are trying for consent on number 2 as well.
Madam Chair, I got a question again on those.
Sure.
When they talk live work, since I've dealt with these SPs.
That's me. Sorry.
Who is it? Wasn't me.
Commissioner
Wasn't me.
Schaefer.
Crystal,
first
This is my
Yeah.
first meeting. Sorry.
I know SPO1 deals with live work, but SPO3, when I looked at the table, allowed uses does not. Does the city want to tackle all the specific plans together when they have these kind of issues, or we can leave them separate so that, because they're basically standalone codes? I mean, that's my concern, is that SPO3 doesn't deal with live work units. It's got some verbiage about it, but it's not in the table of allowed uses.
SBO3 as in locale?
Yes.
That would be a totally different request. We would want to tackle each of these specific plans individually, and the request came forward specifically for Barber Valley. We have not had any requests to include that in the SBO3.
Okay. I guess my point is, I think we should tackle them together. They should be consistent, and there shouldn't be incongruities between specific plans, especially for things like live work. That's my opinion. I just wanted to express it.
All right. Madam Chair, moving on to item 3, we've got CAR 2510 and sub 2525 for KM Engineering LLP. It's Meadowcrest Heights subdivision, address at 8750 North Bogart Lane. It's an annexation of approximately 11.93 acres, including the subject property and adjacent right-of-ways with a zoning designation of R1C HSO, or residential traditional with a hillside overlay. And then also a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 41 buildable and 8 common lots on 10.22 acres. That doesn't have that adjacent right-of-way in it. That's why there's a difference there in that pending R1C HSO zone. We are recommending approval, but we did get some comments back, so we will be hearing that one. Moving on to item 4 is SUB 2454 Verbanic subdivision at 2106 Cribben Street. It's a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 2 buildable lots on just under an acre in an R1C residential traditional zone. We are recommending deferral due to the applicant's request to add a variance. We are requesting that it not be date specific, but to defer this one to a later date. Moving on to item 5, we've got CUP 259 for ADP Architects. The address is 11915 West Executive Drive, and this is a modification to a conditional use permit for the expansion of a legal nonconforming use on 1.47 acres in an I1 or industrial light zone. We are recommending approval and haven't heard any opposition, so we can try for consent on item 5 as well. And last but not least is sub 2541 for Abracadabra subdivision number 2. The address is 915 North Shamrock Street. And this is a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 17 buildable and 3 common lots on just over 2 acres. And again, that R1C or residential traditional zone. We are recommending approval on this, and we haven't heard any opposition, so we can try for consent on item 6 as well. So just to round it out, we can try for consent on items A, 1, 2, 5, and 6. We're looking for a deferral on item 4, and that leaves item 3 as our lone hearing this evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal.
Awesome. Okay, we've got about 6 minutes before we get started, so do last stretches and then we'll get going.
Awesome.
All right, good evening once again, and welcome to the Boise City Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing virtually has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you'll be called upon and unmuted. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. Our procedures for public hearing begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we proceed to public testimony, starting with those who are in person, then who signed up on the sign-up sheet in advance, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. If you're attending through your telephone, you can type in *9 to raise your hand. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Crystal. We are citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We make final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals, and recommendations to the city council on subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code comprehensive plan amendments. Any decision made tonight may be appealed to city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of this hearing. In order to file an appeal, you must have given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important to give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. This means that if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there's no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comments. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood association, and then the public testimony. Thank you all for attending tonight. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Danley. Moore.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Mooney.
Here.
Seha. Torres.
Here.
Dome.
Here.
Stallings.
Here.
6 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. So for the first item on the agenda tonight, we have revised findings. This is revised findings for CUP 25-00022 25-22 and CVA 25-00028. It's for Erstad Architects. It's at 4306 West State Street, conditional use permit for a shelter home on 1.99 acres in an MX3 mixed-use active zone. It also includes a variance to deviate from the streetscape standards, and access and connectivity requirements is also included. This is not a public hearing. This is just revised findings for this particular item. So first, I will be recusing from this item as I am an employee of Erstad Architects. And then
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer.
yeah, let the record show, I'll also be recusing from this item as I'm an employee in the land group and we handled the site plans for this application.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Mooney.
do I need to recuse based on the fact that I missed that hearing?
Yes, please.
I will be recused.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Mooney, Commissioner Schaefer, and I are all recused for this item. And I'll entertain a motion from
I make a motion to accept the revised findings for CUP 25-22 and CVA 25-28 for 4306 West State Street. Additional use permit for a shelter home.
Perfect, thank you. Perfect. I have a motion from Commissioner Doan and a second from Commissioner Torres to approve / accept the revised findings for CUP 25-22 and CVA 25-28. Is there any discussion?
No.
No discussion? Perfect. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Doan,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Stallings,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have a few items eligible for consent agenda, so we'll start at the top. Item number 1, CPA 25-3. This is the City of Boise, and it's citywide. It's a comprehensive plan amendment to remove 128 parcels from Blueprint Boise's future land use map, assign 20 parcels of future land use designation of compact, and request to Ada County to amend the area of impact accordingly. Is the applicant present? Thank you. And do you agree with the terms and conditions in staff report? Let the record show that she does. And is there anybody here tonight who either virtually or in person who is in opposition to item number 1? You can raise your hand either in person or virtually. Seeing none, I move that we place item number 1 on the consent agenda. So item number 2 is ZOA 25-4 for platform architecture design at 3218 East Barber Valley Drive. This is a code amendment to allow for a live work use within the SP02 OC and SP02 OMR subdistricts in the SPO Barber Valley specific plan zone. And is the applicant present tonight? And are you in agreement with the terms and conditions in staff report? Let the record show that they are. And is there anybody here, either virtually or in person, who is in opposition to item number 2? Seeing none, I move that we place item number 2 on the consent agenda. Next item eligible for consent is item number 5. This is CUP 25-9, ADP Architects at 11915 West Executive Drive. It's a modification to a conditional use permit for the expansion of a legal non-conforming use on 1.47 acres in an I-1 industrial light zone. And is the applicant present tonight? And are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report? Let the record show that they are. And is there anybody either virtually or in person who is here to testify in opposition to item number 5 tonight? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I move that we place item number 5 on the consent agenda. And finally, we have item number 6, SUV 25-41 for Abracadabra subdivision number 2. This is at 915 North Shamrock Street, a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 17 buildable and 3 common lots on 2.01 acres in an R1C residential traditional zone. And is the applicant present tonight? Yes. And are you in agreement with the terms and the conditions of staff report? Perfect. Let the record show that they are. And is there anybody present in chambers or online who is in opposition or here to testify in opposition to this item number 6? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I move that we place item number 6 on the consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer,
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 1, 2, 5, and 6 from tonight's agenda with all of their respective staff reports in terms and conditions of approval.
perfect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Schaefer and a second by Commissioner Torres. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Moore,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Mooney,
Yes.
Torres,
Aye.
Doan,
Yes.
Stallings,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Perfect. Thank you. Good luck with your projects.
Madam Chair, I just wanted
Yes.
to say happy birthday to Doug Exon. He gets to go home after getting everything on consent now on his birthday. So just like,
Congrats. All right. And finally, before we move into hearing, item number 4, we have a deferral request. This is SUB 24-54 Verbanic subdivision. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry. This is at 2106 Cribben Street. It's a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 2 buildable lots on 0.99 acres in an R1C zone, a residential traditional zone. They've requested a deferral to add due to an additional variance requested at a date non-specific. Is there anybody here, either in person or online, who was hoping to testify on this item that cannot make it at a later date? You raise your hand either in person or online. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer,
I move to defer item number 4.
Second.
perfect, thank you. And just to clarify, that's,
Sorry. Yeah, I move to
Deferred.
defer to a later date.
thank you.
Yes. TBD.
Thank you, and you
Sorry.
are good with that, okay.
Too much brevity there.
Perfect. So I have a motion to defer item number 4 to a date non-specific by Commissioner Schaefer and a second by Commissioner Doan. Is there any discussion? Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Moore,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Mooney,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Doan,
Yes.
Stallings,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. All right. So the last item remaining on our agenda tonight is item number 3. It's the CAR 25-10 and SUB 25-25. It's KM Engineering, 8750 North Bogart Lane, annexation of approximately 11.93 acres, including the subject property and adjacent rights of way with a zoning designation of R1C HSO, residential and traditional with a hillside overlay. And SUB 25-25 for Meadowcrest Heights subdivision, also at 8750 North Bogart Lane, which is a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 41 buildable and 8 common lots on 10.22 acres in a pending R1C HSO residential traditional with hillside overlay zone. Jesse, you're up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, or sorry, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I just gave you promotion. The item before you is CAR 2510 and SUB 2520. As you said, this is a request to annex approximately 12 acres, including the subject property and adjacent rights of way with a zoning designation of R1C HSO, generally located at 8750 Bogart Lane. And also included is a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 8 common and 41 buildable lots. The subject property is currently zoned RUT within unincorporated Ada County and within the Boise City's area of impact. The parcel abuts Boise city limits on the east, south, and west sides. The property is designated suburban on the future land use map, as are the parcels to the east and west, while parcels to the south and southeast are designated as compact. There's a small area of the subject property north of Hill Road within the hillside overlay. However, this parcel is proposed as a common lot and will not be buildable. The proposed R1C zoning is allowed within the suburban land use designation and will allow the property to develop with a similar density and lot sizes relative to adjacent subdivisions to the east, south, and west. The developable area of the subject property is approximately 8 acres with a density of just under 5 units per acre. However, about 1.7 acres of the total property contains existing roadways. Lot 1, Block 1, north of Hill Road is approximately 1/2 of an acre and not buildable. And Lot 1, Block 2, which contains the existing home, will be approximately 2 acres in size and will likely redevelop in the future. All proposed lots will front internal to the subdivision and will meet all standards of the R1C zone. The proposal will connect with the existing stub street of Sunday Street and provide an additional future east-west connection by stubbing Bismarck Street to the east as well. A condition of approval will require a stub street to the north from Spitfire Avenue, and ACHD has indicated that they are supportive of this condition. Detached 5-foot wide sidewalks are provided internal to the subdivision and for a majority of the length of the Bogart Street frontage. There's a common drive given access to lots 6, 7, and 8 with a pedestrian connection proposed on the east side. However, a condition of approval will require the pedestrian connection on the west side to provide direct access to the right-of-way without having to cross the common drive. Another condition of approval will require 10-foot wide detached sidewalks along Hill Road Parkway, as it is a minor arterial street. 5-foot attached sidewalks are proposed along Hill Road, and the planning team is supportive of this proposal as there are topographical challenges in this area. Additionally, 5-foot sidewalk would typically be required on the north side of Hill Road. However, there is a multi-use pathway identified in this area, so a condition of approval will require the dedication of a public access easement for this future pathway in lieu of construction of the sidewalk. The pathway is not proposed to be constructed at this point in time because the exact location has not been determined. The applicant is proposing to remove 32 trees throughout the site while retaining 10 trees and relocating 2. A tree mitigation plan was submitted indicating 28 trees are in poor health and do not require mitigation. The 124 caliper inches of required mitigation will be met by the proposed plantings within the subdivision. Currently, there are no street trees proposed along Hill Road, and a condition of approval will require the planting of 1 tree for every 40 lineal feet on the south side of the proposed sidewalk. Late correspondence was received from both the applicant and the neighborhood association. The applicant is proposing to retain the northern driveway for the existing home rather than the southern driveway as indicated in the original documents. And this has been okayed by ACHD. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to jog the detached sidewalk along Bogart Lane adjacent to the existing home in order to retain an evergreen tree as seen in red on the screen. While typically the planning team is supportive of retaining mature trees, the proposed jog would interrupt approximately 700 feet of detached sidewalk, which would likely impact pedestrians for a greater length of time than the retention of the tree. Additionally, evergreens are not typically a desirable species near WUI's areas, and all required mitigation is already planned throughout the subdivision as originally proposed. The Northwest Neighborhood Association also submitted comments with late correspondence, as summarized on the screen. General concerns include the timing of the construction of the roundabout at Hill Road Parkway and Bogart Lane. Currently, a reconstruction project for the section of Hill Road Parkway is identified in the capital improvement plan for the 2031 through 2035 period. Additional concerns include a request for additional class 3 trees, potentially along the south side of Hill Road, pollinator plantings on the north side of Hill Road, and natural materials along the exterior of the subdivision. In conclusion, the planning team recommends approval of the annexation with a zoning designation of R1C and the preliminary plat with all original recommendations, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jesse. And next we will hear from the applicant. Is the applicant present? On up.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission, Stephanie Hopkins with KM Engineering, address is 5725 North Discovery Way in Boise.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to be here this evening representing the developer on this project. We've coordinated with staff quite a bit and really appreciate your presentation. That was super thorough, and I think she covered most everything that we want to discuss this evening. I'll try to get my presentation pretty quick. We're requesting annexation and zoning to the R1C and the Hillside Overlay District with a preliminary plat for a single family residential subdivision. We're planning to retain the existing home, which is on about 2 acres. In coordinating with staff, we did incorporate about a ½ acre of property that's within right of way. It was previously unincorporated, unzoned in the city, so they requested that we include it in this application. That brings our overall acreage to about 12 acres, and that's shown in the red triangle there. We're surrounded by R1C and similar development, so feel that this is consistent and compatible with existing development. We did design the preliminary plat to be to marry into those as well as we could. The prominent subdivisions to the west, Bogart Lane is also to the west. It's classified as a local road, and Hillside or Hill Road Parkway is to the south. It's a minor arterial. And then Old Hill Road is to the north. It's a local road. We've coordinated quite a bit with ASHD in the city on the improvements that we're proposing along Hill Road and have made the request for a sidewalk waiver to try to keep the property as much as it is today, similar to how it's been kind of forever. So that was the property owner who's currently living there's desire, and the developer is trying their best to accommodate the request there. The comprehensive plan shows the suburban land use for this property that's really similar with the density we're proposing. Allows for up to 4.8 units an acre, and we're proposing 3.6. This is the preliminary plat. We're proposing 49 lots in total. 41 of those will be buildable, one of which is that existing home that's on about 2 acres. We're proposing to retain one of the existing driveways. We've been coordinating with the property owner on that, and currently we're showing the northern driveway being retained. There is a possibility that they may want to switch it to the southern driveway, so we'll continue to coordinate with them. Reach out to ASHD today. Their staff report notes that the southern driveway would be fine, and staff did say that the northern would be fine as well for their spacing requirements. So when we land on a final driveway location, we'll make sure that we update staff. We're just kind of working through those details right now. So there are 7 common driveway or common lots shown and 1 common driveway lot that will serve 3 of the homes in the northwest corner of the site. Our density, as mentioned, is 3.6 units an acre, and we are dedicating about 2.7 acres for right-of-way, for public right-of-way. This is the landscape plan. We are proposing perimeter fencing. There's a mixture of cedar fencing, which is shown with the yellow line, and then the red is a 6-foot vinyl that's proposed along the perimeter, the rear of lots, and then the side yards for some of the lots. There's a little zoomed in version of the sheet L1.2, which is the southern part of the development, just to show you how much vegetation is proposed. It'll be a mixture of vegetation with boulders and a variety of trees. The landscape architect has done their best to retain trees where possible, and we've been coordinating with the current property owner to retain trees within their portion of the property. Tree number 42 is the one that we just spoke about, trying to jog the sidewalk around to retain, was actually a tree that was relocated from, I think it was the grandparent of the gal that Oh, okay. So tree number 43 is actually the one that's going to stay, and 42 will come out with the driveway. Regardless, they're very old trees, and we're excited to keep them on site, and are hopeful that we can work with staff and you all to waive the sidewalk requirement just for that little portion to allow it to be attached. In this graphic, there are some trees that are being removed, and that's indicated with the purple and the red. The purple are healthy trees that are going to be mitigated on site. I think overall they're mitigating for over 100 inches of trees. that have been located throughout the property, and unhealthy trees will be removed. So a lot of those are along Hill Road Parkway, a lot of cottonwoods and elms that are volunteers and not in good health and not substantial enough to be kept. So here's the sidewalk waiver request along Old Hill Road. We originally had requested a variance to not do any sidewalk at all. And in speaking with the staff, we're able to find a good middle ground and a solution to provide some kind of pedestrian connectivity here rather than nothing. Our client has worked with the neighborhood association quite a bit through this project and some others that they've worked on. And they were at the neighborhood meeting and otherwise interested in keeping this completely undeveloped to try to keep Old Hill Road rural and speak to its heritage. So we think the 5-foot attached sidewalk is a good middle ground. It'll still fulfill a lot of the city's requirements and policies and goals, but won't be as impactful as a detached sidewalk would be to the existing home as well as the entire area. And then this is the tree that is going to be retained is actually on the right-hand side of the screen here. Okay, the left tree is 42, so that'll be the one that's retained. And that's the one that's on our landscape plan noted as being retained. So the sidewalk jog would be just around that tree to the west to make sure that we're not going to be impacting the roots and that it can actually be healthy. And that's just a picture showing you what that would look like. Staff recommended some conditions. We agree with most of them and are appreciative of her ability to help us through some of the complications and challenges we've had on this project. The pedestrian connection, which was site-specific condition number 3, we agree to. We will relocate that to the western side of the common driveway to provide access there. Site-specific condition number 5, we're also in agreement with, and that's to include a 10-foot detached sidewalk along Hill Road Parkway. So we'll make changes to the plans for those and likely get those submitted before City Council. The one that we would really like to kind of work through is site-specific condition number 4, which is a stub street to the north. We propose that this condition be omitted primarily because the existing home, they don't have any plans to redevelop. It would really prevent anyone. So if this homeowner does end up selling the property and someone does come to redevelop it, it would really marry them to having a stub street there and with no other access points. There are some properties to the east that could potentially redevelop in the future too. And so we think there are opportunities for them to connect a road there. So our request would be that we would omit this condition and not require a stub street to the north, just so that we don't negatively impact that existing home and keep the project somewhat separate. So I think with that, we are really excited for this project. I think it'll be a great addition to the area and very consistent with what's been done and what's planned with Prominence and other developments in the area. And I will stand for questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Before questions, we'll see if the neighborhood association is present. And I think that's Richard Llewellyn. I don't see him online and I don't think I see him in person. Okay. Well, from there, we will now move to questions from the commission.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Mooney.
I have a question about the setbacks for the R1C and questions for the applicant, which is one of the notices in our written test or the project report was that northern boundary, and 10.6 was, I think, which was the plan setback. Staff says, hey, it needs to be 15. How does that impact the development? You don't have an issue with that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mooney, I don't believe we do have an issue with that. I don't know exactly which condition you're speaking about. Could you point me to it in the staff report?
Sure.
Or maybe just restate the question just so I make sure I fully
Yeah,
understand.
R1C setbacks on the north of the sub are 10.6, but 15 is required.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Mooney, we do not have issues with that. We're complying. We'll comply with that. We adjusted the line to make sure.
Okay, great. I couldn't tell
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks. Madam Chair, follow up on trees.
Please.
I'm a little confused about, so it looks like your presentation on tree health and mitigation and all that was really detailed. But when we go to the city parks letter in our project report, the applicant has City Parks letter notes that the applicant has identified all trees to be removed or relocated, but no arborist of record is named. So I guess that's a question for staff. Do we need an arborist of record for these kind of decisions? Jesse?
Madam Chair, Commissioners. Yes, so one of the ways that we can tell if the trees are healthy and desirable or if they don't need mitigation is through an arborist report. There was that page that was included in the landscape plan. I just don't believe there was the arborist on record who did the analysis included in that.
Madam Chair, for the applicant.
Please.
So do you have an arborist report that would be referenced to the staff for later, primarily because lots of this discussion is going to be about the jog and the sidewalk,
Sure.
which trees are retained, and the northern boundary on Hill Road, there, the attached sidewalk and additional trees there. So there's a lot of tree questions, but no arborist report.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mooney, I'm not aware of South Beck and Baird having completed one. I can ask if they have a certified arborist on staff to make sure that we have that supplemental information to provide. But our firm has one that we can also complete a report. So I don't know I think it is a requirement of code to have that completed. I don't know if it's before City Council renders a decision or if it's what the time frame is, but we can provide that quickly.
Any other questions?
There's got to be some more questions.
Commissioner
Chair.
Schaefer.
Jesse, let's chat this proposed Stubb Street at lot 15. So this is a city staff comment, correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, yes, that would be a condition that was added by staff.
Okay. And the thought process being that road would eventually just stub out to Hill Road? Is that the idea? If the parcel to the north redevelops?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, so that would be one option, and probably the most likely option to stub out to Hill Road. But generally, like the parcel that is left for that lot 1, block 2 is fairly large, but kind of an odd shape. So trying to get, as many options for future connectivity as possible.
Gotcha. So in staff's thought process, there could be consideration that it may turn to the west or the east. I'm just trying to understand the thought process, because it seems like it's an odd depth to me where that Stubb Street meets lot 1, block 2, right to Hill Road. Like it's an odd depth. Like it's almost deep enough to be just maybe a little bit oversized standard lots in that condition facing Hill Road, should that parcel redevelop in the future. So can you just give me a little more thought process from staff's perspective?
Sure, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So this is a discussion that we had with ACHD staff, and there was a lot of back and forth of, is this, we're stubbing because does it provide the connectivity we want? And ultimately, we got some direction from ACHD that they are supportive of that Stubb Street there and could see that it could develop out. And so that's part of the reason that we did include the condition.
Okay. And it meets distance requirement, like should that street stub out to Hill Road, Old Hill Road, it meets distance spacing requirements to Bogart from ACHD's handbook. We're not going to run into an issue there, right?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Mooney.
follow up on that line of
Sure.
question. So for the applicant, what would be your proposal for an alternative redevelopment of block 2 there, the existing parcel?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mooney, we've looked at what a potential layout could be for redevelopment of that lot. And I think the primary concern is if it does stub to Hill Road, there's a potential that you could have cut through traffic coming through the neighborhood, which would be, something that the developer really wants to avoid. I think it's just not super layout wise, it's awkward, to have, if you don't have the stub up to Hill Road, you could have a road come up and cul-de-sac within the lot and kind of end towards the western part of that lot. But it does create kind of a double fronted situation where the homes within Meadowcrest Heights now have a road behind them. And you have a single row of homes that has a, their primary point of access that's a public road too. So as far as efficiency for ACHD to own and maintain that and the homeowners that are being proposed within this development, it's just not the most optimal redevelopment of that property. So I think, of course, right now the property owner is planning to stay there. And I think, they don't have any plans to move or redevelop. And so we would like to honor their wishes there, but understand too that the city needs to look at connectivity. And I think just to play devil's advocate, ACHD is wonderful to work with from our perspective. And I think a lot of times they do mirror what the city recommends, right? So they've reviewed the staff report. They look at our accesses. For example, the access that we proposed to Bogart Lane for the existing home, we initially had said it was going to be the southern access point, and they made the recommendation and catered their staff report based on that distance and what we proposed. If we'd proposed the northern, I think that they would have made the recommendation based on that. And I think a lot of times they do that with public agencies and jurisdictions because they want to be a good partner. So if we had proposed, or maybe if the city hadn't recommended a stub street to the north, they may not have considered that option.
Sure. Any other questions?
Sure, I still have some, Madam Chair.
Please, go ahead, Commissioner Mooney.
So back to the trees in the attached sidewalk on Old Hill Road. A question for staff. We're basically saying a condition of approval required the applicant to meet landscape requirements south of the attached sidewalk on Hill Road. That's kind of unusual. Am I missing that, or is that pretty standard that we look for landscaping south of the attached sidewalk in this case?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, this is something that was added into the modern zoning code. We would allow attached sidewalk on local streets in certain instances, but there had to be the landscaping that are in the trees specifically that was still provided. That would just be on the other side of that sidewalk in an easement.
Madam Chair, follow up for the applicant. So on that, any problem with that additional public easement, irrigation requirements, maintenance of those new trees south of the attached sidewalk?
Correct, Madam Chair, Commissioner Mooney, we're amenable to that, in agreement.
John Tippin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Same topic. Jesse, I know the condition, sorry, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you. I believe the condition on, our staff report, those trees, is class 2 or 3. Neighborhood Association, I believe, requested class 3. Do you have any heartburn over that? By eliminating class 2 trees?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, generally we'd like to see the largest class possible. And I think that because it would be on the other side of the sidewalk than we normally see, I think class 3 could be appropriate as a way to, meet some of the neighborhood wants and needs, and then additionally get some of that more tree canopy.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Commissioner Mooney, you have another one?
Yeah, I got just a couple others for staff. On the annexation point, obviously, one of our criteria, for the decision is publicly note that existing schools serving the area must have capacity for the anticipated additional children. However, for the record, no correspondence has been received from Boise School District. I'll snidely say again, how can we make an informed decision without that information from the school district?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, yes, that's something that we do, want to see when we transmit, is getting a response back, obviously, from our partner agencies. However, a condition of the subdivision is also to have acceptance from the school district. So there's multiple times that we would get that correspondence. Sometimes it just takes a little while for the school district to get that to us.
Madam Chair, one last one.
Please.
So on fire, same thing. The fire department was asked, are you going to basically, the comment letter didn't talk about response time, which I think is one of our considerations for annexation. Do we need that detailed as well, since all of the comment letter doesn't address the response time from the fire facility to this new annexation?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, the fire department did indicate that they would be able to service this property and that it was within their response time. I just don't think that they included that in their letter. It was verbal correspondence.
Okay, so for the record, then Boise Fire agrees it complies with the annexation requirements for fire service. And I know that's a sensitive issue for this neighborhood.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, yes, the Boise Fire Department did say that they would be able to service this property.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anybody else? No? Well, while everybody else thinks, I've got a couple of questions. One for staff. So the tree under question on the north side near the driveway. It looks like a really big tree and it's close to the driveway. Is there any danger that that's going to encroach on vision triangle requirements and something like that? It kind of looks like in some of those plans, it kind of looks like it's might actually be in the vision triangle. Would that be an issue? Is that kind of another reason why it needs to, or why it's just not compatible in that location?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that's a great question. That wasn't provided, like the late correspondence came in Thursday. Well, I looked at it Thursday afternoon, so haven't had a chance to fully analyze, the vision triangle aspect of it, but is that something that we would take into consideration? Yes.
And I guess that's for staff. I mean, not for staff, for the applicant, you can. Yeah,
Madam Chair, our landscape architect's been looking at it and they've been talking about limbing the tree up a bit too. So we would make sure that it's outside that vision triangle, whether that means that the tree is limbed up significantly so folks can see around it, or designing it specifically. And if we can't retain it, that would be something that we'll need to, work through with staff, obviously, after the fact. And I'd imagine it would get rid of the sidewalk jog if we no longer need to retain it, or if we think. But in looking at it, they were specifically looking at limbing it up to be able to make it work.
Okay. And then one other question, kind of different topic. So do you have a map of the adjacent parcels available, kind of how those subdivisions are connecting together? I think you had one before the previous one that you just showed. That one. So when I'm thinking about that north-south connection, there's an opportunity to connect, obviously, to the right or to the east. There's an opportunity potentially in the future, and that's kind of what's planned with that stub street right there. And so the city's thought is on that lot 1, block 2, or on the kind of northern piece, that a connection similar to how you're stubbing over wouldn't be able to happen, kind of some sort of shared drive situation from that adjacent parcel. I guess it requires a couple of different things to fall into place for that to happen. Is that kind of what the city's intention is to not require a couple of different things to fall into place by putting something there? You have an option now.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I think that just generally when we are looking at subdivisions and connectivity, we've seen times in the past where we haven't required some of these potential connections, and it's caused issues down the line. So I think generally we're pretty cautious about wanting to get those connections whenever possible. I mean, I know that there is connection to the east, and then also, like I said, we ran this by ACHD to see if it was possible. I mean, there are some potential topography issues with Hill Road and connection too. So it's an idea. We ran it by ACHD. It's kind of up to discretion and discussion at this point.
Perfect. Well, that's all that I had. So there's no further questions. Seeing none. We will now go to the sign up sheet, and there was nobody signed up for this item, and I see one other person in the chambers tonight. So if there's anybody here who wishes to testify for this item, please come on up or virtually raise your hand. I don't think there's anybody online. Okay. Well, with the public, not the public, I would say you do have an opportunity to rebut. If there's no public testimony, you can yield it, or you can say a few words. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just speaking with our client, and it sounds like, so if we potentially do keep the southern driveway, that would alleviate a lot of the concerns about the site vision triangle too, just to kind of note there. And then I think the topic about topography issues on Bogart and just to Old Hill Road in general, it's very hilly right there, would present an issue for connection specifically with the Stubb Street. So that's another item that I forgot to mention earlier that I'd like you to consider with our request on that. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you. And with that, we will close the hearing and render a decision. So with that, the item is before the commission. And as a reminder, we are the recommending body for CAR 25-10 and SUB 25-25.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Mooney.
I move that we recommend approval of CR 2510 and sub 2525 with all the terms and conditions in the staff report.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Mooney to recommend approval of CAR, right, 25-10 and SUB 25-25 with all the terms and conditions in staff report, with a second from Commissioner Schaefer. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Mooney?
Madam Chair, yes, for the annexation, the staff report covers it well, and we talked about the fire and school stuff as far as decision criteria. So I think that's a well-justified annexation to recommend to City Council. For the sub, the issues, obviously the detached sidewalk on Bogart and the Stubb Street, and I am in agreement with staff that we should insist on the Stubb primarily for the problems they've had in the past with redeveloping parcels in the future. And I agree that we don't want to lose a tree there, but I agree with staff that that's going to be a longer term issue is pedestrian safety along Bogart.
Thank you, Commissioner Mooney. Anybody else?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I'll keep it quick. I agree with Commissioner Mooney's comments. Obviously, I'm in sort of support of the motion. The annexation, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to me that we have, services and development around the property. So annexation and the proposed use works great with the existing uses around the site. And I did question the tree specifications on Old Hill Road. I'm fine proceeding with class 2 or 3. We'd like to see class 3s, of course, if we can, but I'm fine with large class 2s as well. So otherwise, I think the application looks really good.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Torres.
I'll also be brief. Sorry, I've been a little bit quieter tonight and didn't have as many questions this week, but I also I concur with my fellow commissioners about the connectivity, and I'm willing to defer. I agree about the Stubb Street. I think it's really important to have the connectivity, and I'm willing to defer to staff's recommendations when it comes to the other connectivity, like the sidewalks and all that. But I do think we need to try to be consistent on these things, and it's really important to have the connectivity, or we end up with what we have now throughout the city, where we don't have sidewalks and connecting roads in places, and we have roads that don't go through. And while there are concerns, obviously, that the applicant has about through traffic does actually help alleviate traffic. I mean, having these connections makes it so traffic doesn't back up elsewhere. And So for all those reasons and more, I support the motion.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm just going to check online. Oh, so I'll say a few words. I'm in support of the motion as well, for all the reasons already stated. Yeah, I think staff's reasoning about the tree makes sense. The sidewalk will be there for longer, and be a public benefit for more time than the tree. And that's really unfortunate because it is a beautiful tree. In terms of the road, I think staff's logic for that as well makes a lot of sense. When you look at the geometry, it does provide kind of a midpoint connection that does give that lot maybe a little bit more flexibility for however it may develop in the future if it does. And so I'm in agreement with those sentiments as well. So if there are no other comments, will the clerk please call the roll?
Moore,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Mooney,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Stone,
Yes.
Stallings,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. This hearing is adjourned.